Yo, what's good? What's going on, everybody? So I'm going to be showcasing a bit of a Bionic fuel build for Bunny. So I was pretty much testing with this for roughly about half an hour, 45 minutes, just to see if there was any other further tweaks I can make to the build. A lot of people were talking about crit kind of changed and that you wouldn't go for the skill power gold node. You would just go for the crit route. I tried seeing if that bullshit kind of applies to skill power or dot phase descents, quote unquote, meaning no crit. No, it doesn't. Don't run it. Does less damage, roughly around 50k a tick. So I don't aim for it. I did take the cooldown because this cooldown lets me infloop my 3 or my ring for Bunny. So I don't have to run necessarily the focus on mods in my build. I can get by without it, or without a hunter piece, or without the cooldown node and your inversion reinforcement. I don't have to go it. I just grab it here. And since I don't need any of this, I don't really care for it. I wanted to grab a few range because I did sacrifice a bit of range for this build to slip in as much damage as possible. I do have a different variant for Deathstalker that I will be showcasing right here to show some of the changes that I made. You still want to take the range. The range is absolutely huge. You do need it. You will feel that it's lacking in Deathstalker, so that's why I added a variant for Deathstalker itself. So going back to here, I am running a singular electric substat for an electric singular reactor with a tactical rifling on it. Reason why is because this is a dot build. You are inflooping, so you don't need the cooldown. There's some people that do run range reactors. I run multitudes of different reactors depending on what I'm farming, but this one will provide the most consistent, highest damage output, especially for dot descendants or damage over time descendants, so electric. Going over here, I am using a secret iron. This is a fully stat stick. This is how I'm getting my speed. I wanted to showcase really quickly, when I go into Bionic Fuel, you are getting a 30% sprint speed increase, but that is 20% less from high voltage, which has a 50%. Now, the reason why this is not a problem is because if I go here and look at my sprint speed, I'm not at cap. Cap is 1300. I'm at 1112. But if I turn on my speed of light, which is, it's active right here on screen, and I go to my info, I'm already at max. So because of the speed course and because of the speed of light, 30% multiplicative increase, you do reach speed cap. But I want to make it abundantly clear, I'm using another mod on top of that for another movement speed of 24% multiplicative. And I'm also using the adrenaline rush, which gives you the movement speeds plus 16% multiplicative. Reason why I'm having this is because in the future, they're going to take off the 1300 sprint speed cap for Bunny, and they're going to allow us to go up to 1600. Hence why I'm taking these extra nodes so that I can reach that 1600 when they take off the cap. Currently, right now, you cannot go above cap for Bunny unless you're grappling. Grappling is the only way to go above speed cap temporarily when you melee after your grapple. So moving on, this is might change in the future. Maybe I do make this a complete speed stat stick because I do have grappling on here on my Blue Beetle, so I could use this to grapple around in the air and then go back to this when I'm running back on the ground. I am using an Excava that's not fully min-max. I would like to reroll the Colossi off for crit, but I kept it for now because I do use this for bossing, especially Devour, Swamp Walker, and Deathstalker, which is a very nice weapon to use for it. These are the mods that I have for it. I did a lot of testing with this and found this to be a better in terms of damage output using Firing Fiesta on a Descendant that's not Glade. This is really good for a run and gun on Bunny. And since you're also hip firing, I'm building stacks while I'm in the air, and the second I land the ground, I dump my nades, which for the unique ability, when I aim down my sights, I'm actively shooting my energy grenades. I'm not focusing on crit on this. This gun has an innate dog shit 3% fire crit rate. A lot of people will tell you, oh, but wait, the unique ability gives you an increase in crit rate of 5 and you get 15%. Wow, congratulations, you got 15%. But you got to compensate for that in the mods, and you're sacrificing a lot of damage doing that. So that's kind of why I went for this build specifically. It worked for me. Now, if I go to Blue Beetle, this build is from Vash. Vash uploaded a great video about Blue Beetle. I will not be covering this. I'll probably put a link in the description below if you wanted to see a more detailed Blue Beetle. Just know this is slightly outdated because this is before multi-mods were added. So I really don't know if this will do more damage. So I have zero clue. I just mainly use this as a stats gun when I'm fighting Deathstalker because of this effect. When I use a singular skill, which is Bunny's 3 or her electric ring, will proc this purification effect, which has a 100% trigger rate to remove 100% of debuffs. So if you receive the debuff that cuts your health and also applies damage over time from Deathstalker, you can instantly cancel it out with a purification pop. So that's kind of why I use this in all of my Deathstalker runs as a sidearm, kind of on the side. So I use it time to time, but I'm using my Secret Garden to keep up with speed, and I use my Excava as a form of DPS if I'm not in the air spinning around in circles. I am using a Slayer set. This will have the highest damage output for a Bionic Fuel Bunny build. It gives you a 26.1% increase to your skill power, and the reason why this is very, very important and why I don't use Supernova is Supernova is a modifier, and not only that, I'm already stacking on my skill power using power increase, and when I add onto it with the Slayer set, it provided a higher damage output than if I were to use Supernova. It had a difference of 100 to 200k damage. So that's why I don't really use it. I use a power increase mod, so I'm going to stack it with a Slayer, and also Slayer is just good hands all around for skill power descendants. But Bunny doesn't have something like the Plague set, which maybe this would be good for like a 2-piece this, and then maybe a 2-piece like skill cost. No, not skill cost, but probably like a cooldown, and then maybe you could slip off the cooldown node and go for extra range or some quality of life. That could be possible. I haven't done testing with that. I just know that Slayer for damage output really, really helped for me. And let's go to mods. So pretty much mods, I go for a Overwhelming Shield build because Bionic Fuel, what it does is it strips away your health per interval. So every second, it's taking a piece of your max HP over and over and over again until it reaches a minimum point. Once it reaches a minimum point, it will cease to take any more health unless you gain health. So it will take, unless it's 15% multiplicative or less of the HP consumption, when you multiply 15% to your max HP, it will not go below that. But if you set your HP to 1, you cannot get less than 1 HP. You cannot get a decimal amount taken away from you with Bionic Fuel. So with that theory, if you put an Overwhelming Shield that resets it to 1, and you stack as much HP and shield as you can onto Bionic Fuel, you are pretty much cycling all your health into shield, but you're not sitting at 353 or some percentage of your max HP. You're sitting at 1, but you're sitting at thousands of shield, which is your health. That's what I consider health. Defense is worthless here. You don't want to be focusing on defense because defense only apply when your HP is exposed. So shield does not take any influence from defense at all, so I don't focus on it. That's why I don't have a spear and shield. And also I've known from testing that electric Synctium will have a slightly more damage increase than spear and shield, so I couldn't even justify the damage to throw it on. So I said, I don't need the defense, I don't need the spear or the skill power increase. They don't have a major effect other than the electric Synctium. That's why I'm running this instead. I'm running an MP conversion because I need some sort of cooldown, or else I won't be able to cycle this 3 over and over again. I do have a tight window of 0.6 seconds, but that's more than enough for a bunny to proc it in midair. I am going at max HP. I do not want to be stripping at my shield. That's why I'm not going in HP amplification. I want to be able to cycle all of that into HP as much as possible. Increase shield, this should make sense. You're just increasing your shield. Electric amplification, because this is considered a dot build. I decided to go a singular specialist because I didn't really need the cooldown from the focus on singular, and also the modifier actually improved my damage a slight amount, roughly 100 to 200k a tick. So I felt this was justifiable to run a singular specialist, and also I ran the difference between power increase and Electric Specialist, but I found that Power Increase actually does more damage than Electric Specialist. It did a difference of roughly around 100k. And I'm running a skill expansion because I need some sort of range. Now, sometimes if I'm running Deathstalker, this is kind of how I would change the build slightly. I would probably take off this Power Increase because you don't need all that damage when you're dealing with Deathstalker. You're just popping the ads, which don't have a lot of health to begin with, and you're also popping the pellets that he shoots in the air that give you that damage over time ring. So that debuff, you're able to pop it in midair, so you don't have to worry about it. So I would swap out Power Increase for Biosync Shield, so any HP drops that are on the ground, you could be able to cycle that into shield. Because if you were to just pick up the HP health, that would straight go into your HP, which would immediately get diminished out by your Bionic Fuel, which means that you just wasted the HP. It's not going to your shield, it's just being immediately used. And then another thing that would change would be you go here, and swap it out for an amplification control. This is a nice middle ground. I don't like going maximize range because it actually does diminish your damage by roughly around 100 to 200, or like 100 to 150k. So I decided to go in amplification control, so because not only am I getting that 51% increased shield or range, I'm also getting an increased shield of 36.5% multiplicative, which does bring me roughly around the 10k mark. Since I'm using this this inversion reinforcement, which I gain an extra 8.1% multiplicative for 30 seconds for my max shield, I do actually reach 10k, which is like a nice middle ground, which I kind of like running for Deathstalker. But if I go back here, I throw on the Electric Synctium, I take off the Biosync Shield, and decide to put on the Power Increase. And I go and decide to charge up my electricity. I go and charge up. As you can see, I'm about to... There it is. 1.019 million per tick with this build. So honestly, I would use this like for any type of missions where I'm helping people in lower level missions. So easy mode, hard mode, 100%, 250%. I've not used this in 400% because again, this is dependent on range. So you see how I'm ticking these few enemies at a time. The higher and higher density I get, or the more and more enemies I get, I have to tick every single one of them until they're dead. But I ignore that by going Electric Condense. So that's why I don't really run Bionic Fuel in Electric Condense, is because it's a few enemies per tick, whereas Electric Condense is a lot of enemies within a specific range. So it's not dependent on your tick rate, which takes more time. You're hoping that you have high tick rate, which you could probably slip out with a arc acceleration. An arc acceleration will actually increase the speed of ticks you have per interval. But I do not believe there's enough room to fit this on. Nor do I think there's enough time even then compared to an Electric Condense. Whereas an Electric Condense, you just charge up and detonate and continue moving, and you either have max MP right off the gate after you detonate, or you have max electricity right off the gate, so you're ready to charge up another detonation. So I don't believe it is justifiable to run an arc acceleration with this build. I will do it for a gen crit build because I can justify throwing it on, but I can't for this build because I need some sort of shield to kind of stay alive. So as you can see, this is 1.019 million. This is my arc tuning. I am going a electrocution vulnerability because I'm not insta-killing mobs in a 400%. So I'd rather get the skill power increase from the electrocution effect that I know I will get that 9.5% increase, then hope to God I'm insta-killing them and killing them at a fast enough rate to stay at max stacks for the electric cohesion. So I decided not to go the electric cohesion just for the terms of consistency. And I have used electrocution vulnerability and it works out just fine. I'm over 1 million a tick per electric shock, so I don't really have too much of a problem with this. I'm already doing enough damage. At that point, if I was using the other stacks, I'd be overkilling at that point, and I don't see a reason to do that. So I decided to fit it in other quality of life or other like stuff completely. So that's pretty much my Bionic field build. If you have any further questions, be sure to comment below or message me on Discord. I will be putting this video on the Discord as well. So appreciate you guys. And I will see you later. Peace out, bruh.